You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AfterBuzz TV's America's Next Top Model After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's America's Next Top Model After Show.
Hi. Bing is for doing, and I'm Jackie Miranne, doing a very special edition of America's Next Top Model, the After Show. We are in cycle 19, and I'm joined by my host, Alikona, in the studio in LA.
Hi, everybody.
Alikona. Well, we're here on a special day to bring you an exclusive interview with none other than what I deem the most interesting character and model to watch of the season, Victoria. We're so happy to have you join us. We wanted to do a special show just so we can get the chance to chat with you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's great to speak with you.
Well, you know, I really have to say, I really think, and we're going to get into what, what exactly you thought of the show and how it was, live as you were doing it. But I have to say, we have never been here at AfterBuzz, I think, so excited to talk to one of the contestants that, when we couldn't get the chance to talk to you this past Monday, we wanted to create a special show just to be able to talk with you. And I know you had some issues. I'm curious to know, because I'm a New Yorker, Victoria. I was caught, actually, in Hurricane Sandy. I was able to tape the show just hours before it really hit New York, and I'm a lower Manhattanite. So I really saw the effects of Sandy live, and I know you had trouble calling in that day. Were you part of the zone at all? Like, were you affected in your area?
I did. I did get minorly affected in my area, which is very fortunate, but it's been some horrible damage, of course, in New York. Some of my friends in New York have contacted me with just stories of just devastating damage. I've been keeping up with it on the news, actually. And, even in Georgia, it's just amazing, the cold fronts that have come in, the power outages. That was actually one of my problems last Monday and why I wasn't able to talk to you. I was frantically trying to find a friend's car so I could, talk with the car charger, and it was definitely a mess. And there is, there has been a little bit of damage here, but thankfully, not quite as bad as in some areas. But my heart definitely goes out. My heart definitely goes out to the people who have suffered from the damage, though. But there's been a lot of wind. I took a long walk the other night, and it was just so cold and windy. So there are definitely some effects here, too.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it's crazy, and I'm not going to go into it because we have so many exciting things to talk about. But it's just crazy that even in Georgia you're getting affected, and I really being in the heart of it. I can't even tell you guys enough.
Exactly.
You can go on my website, JackieMoran.com, to hear more on that, because we're here to talk about fun stuff like America's Next Top Model. But it truly is amazing, unless you were in it or near it, to know really how much it took a toll on us. So, especially in New York. I'm in Florida now. I was able to get out, but, I'd love for you guys to really all be able to support New York and New Jersey and everybody. So definitely, if you guys can get online and do anything about it, we really, being a Manhattanite myself, I really appreciate it personally. But Victoria, we're so happy you're here because I really loved watching you this season, no matter what you may have thought or, felt personally. But no matter what, you really were, I think, one of the most memorable models in the history of the show, really. So,
wow. What a compliment. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. But in general, what was your take on the season? Obviously I'll ask you some more specific thoughts on things, but were you happy you were part of the show? Was it a good experience for you overall? Like, what was your take on it?
My take on the way that I came across and was portrayed on the show was definitely mixed. There were some episodes that I was a lot happier with than others, and then some I felt like some aspects of my personality were edited out to make me a more one-dimensional character than I am in real life. Such as the ongoing mom saga. I mean, anybody who knows me knows that I have a fantastic relationship with my mom. We're really close. We're best friends. She's my rock. She's my support system. And, there were some times that I was upset calling her on the phone because, I felt alienated and ostracized in the house and didn't really have anyone positive to turn and talk to. But I feel like the way that it came across was just, that I sat around and talked about her all the time, when in fact, there's so many other areas of my personality, too, that I felt like didn't really have the opportunity to shine through, which was a shame. But I feel like, the quirkiness that you saw, it's definitely me. The backstories and the theatrics, that is something that I do like to do. Do I do that in my everyday photo shoots when I'm not on a reality show? No, that's more of a reality TV, Victoria. But I do think the method modeling can help you kind of have a story behind your photos. I feel like some of the best photos are ones that really tell a story and convey a message. So on the show, I felt like that was important, and I think my antics of, coming up with my little stories, if not anything else, it did make me memorable, and I actually have a lot of fan sites that has been put up for me, and people that have reached out to me saying that, you're my favorite in the history of the show, and, I love your quirks and I love your personality, and you just really stood out to me. And I feel like in this industry, it really is important with whatever you do to be unique, to be an individual, to set yourself apart. And, I may not agree with the scores that I got sometimes, or I may not really like certain aspects of the way that I was portrayed on the show, but I am glad, if nothing else, that I did stand out and that I was memorable.
Victoria, I have to ask, this is Alikona. I wanted to know now looking back at the show, is there anything that you would change, or maybe because they were giving you certain constructive criticisms when you were at panel, and now watching it going, I think they kind of were right. Whereas before you're like, no, like I did a great job.
Right. And like I tell a lot of people, I feel like I am a much better model than I came across on the show. Some of the photos that I've taken recently have been shared all over fan sites. I get great feedback from photographers, from clients, from people who are taking out ads in magazines. And I feel like that really is me. Just, a girl who, I have quirks in my personality, but I don't let that overshadow my actual skills. I feel like maybe, the whole quirky thing did kind of overshadow some of my skills on the show. And I feel like I also got some conflicting advice from the judges, which was confusing for me. If you look back at the very beginning, and I don't know if this was actually caught on tape or not, but Johnny actually liked, one of the first photo shoots when I did have a backstory, when I kind of explained my thoughts behind a photo. Johnny seemed like, oh, wow, I'm eating it up. But then you looked at his voiceover and he was saying, oh, she talks too much, she's irritating, blah, blah, blah. And in a lot of coming episodes, there was a lot of criticism behind the scenes from Johnny, left and right, but I wish he would have told me some of these things to my face at the photo shoot. If that's what he wanted, I could have definitely altered my performance to, give me better scores at panel. But I just don't feel like, as opposed to the Jays, who watching them in past episodes, when they had very constructive criticism on the sets of the photo shoot, I feel like Johnny just kind of, I think he worried too much about being nice, and he didn't really give constructive criticisms, but behind the scenes is when he criticized.
Right.
And you know what, the zombie shoot, for example, when Rob saw the zombie shoot photos, he said, oh, I'm disappointed that you didn't analyze that, and I think your photo's so bland it falls flat. I'm very disappointed in you that you didn't analyze. But when I came up in Jamaica and really came up with a backstory behind my photo, he said, "Oh, I'm sick of you. I don't like your backstories anymore." And I don't. So I think, in watching it, I think I'm not so much frustrated with myself as I am frustrated with some of the judges, especially with some of the stuff that Rob and Johnny weren't very consistent on and didn't tell me to my face. Not to badmouth anyone, but I just feel like there was kind of some confusion. And, to them, me winning America's Next Top Model was definitely not as important to them as it was to me. To them, I was just another disposable girl on the show. But it is frustrating to watch it. Of course, I wanted to be numero uno. I wanted to take home the crown, so to speak, and to win the whole thing. But all in all, regardless of aggravation, pertaining to some of the judging, being upset that they did the comeback thing and I was an official top 5 or things like that, I am thankful that I was able to just gain this priceless exposure that I wouldn't have been able to gain any other way.
I wanted to ask you too.
It's interesting, Victoria, because talking to you right now and kind of hearing you live and watching you throughout the show, one thing that I did say, and I figured I'm not so surprised by your take on the mom saga and things like that, actually. But one thing that you're showing right now, and that did show through the show, whether that was the main goal of the portrayal or not, is that you are, in fact, a strong modeling presence. And I always have said in my critiques that you are one of the models that I think, coming from the New York fashion industry and modeling myself, that I could definitely see you, beyond some of the other girls being able to work in a market like New York, for instance. And kind of hearing you chat about, the real world version of you and, even the way you kind of critique the other girls throughout the show, I think it's safe to say, you see yourself definitely, and I agree, that as a strong modeling force in the real world. And is that something that you're kind of focusing on now that the show's over?
That is definitely something that I'm trying to focus on now that the show is over. And I'm actually glad that you saw that shine through in the show, that, regardless of any tears and boo-hooing and crying and, I'm missing my mom and things that might have been over-dramatized in the show, I'm glad that to you and hopefully to a lot of other fans as they reached out to me that, I have come across as a strong person, as a strong model, as somebody who has potential to really be a strong force in the modeling industry. And I have great hopes and goals for myself. And, not just lofty goals. I feel like they're very attainable, especially as, I've beaten out so many people to be on this show, America's Next Top Model. Already since I've gotten home from the show, I've worked so hard to self-promote and to get myself out there. I've actually done, some editorial spreads for a magazine in Australia. I've been in some magazines based in New York. I've been establishing contacts so I can achieve one of my lifelong dreams of walking in New York Fashion Week. I actually already have one designer lined up for the coming Fashion Week. And, I'm writing columns for some magazines, fashion-based columns. I've been collaborating with photographers, teaching my own workshops. I'm really trying to get myself out there in just a variety of ways. In the future, I don't want to limit myself to just modeling. Of course, I'd love to be in an editorial in Vogue when I'm a little bit older, Harper's Bazaar maybe. I'd love to do hosting. I love being interviewed. I love interviewing people. That's something I really like to do, maybe some hosting work. I'm definitely not a person who believes in limiting herself, of course. And I feel like, with the show, whether I'm the winner or not, that's honestly, in the long term of things, that's irrelevant. I think it's just having the skills of being able to self-promote and being able to really market yourself, skills that I feel like a lot of other girls from this season don't have. I feel like that'll carry me further and really be able to get me some great work in the long term. So I look forward to seeing what the future holds, and I feel like my exposure from the show, even though there were some negative aspects of it, I feel like it could really lead to some big things for me. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the future has in store.
I want to say, Victoria, it's such a pleasure talking to you and really hear you, because I've read other interviews from some of the other girls, and they always talk about how well-spoken you are, and you truly are. And I think that they really portrayed you as being socially awkward on this show. And it was something that I was actually going to ask you about, but now I feel like I can't even ask you about that because you're just so great at it. And I just wanted to give you that compliment. That's all.
Right. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Victoria, I have to agree. That was the next thing that I was going to say. Alikona, right? We had some questions about whether or not you were in the real world modeling and whether or not, your social skills and things like that, which are some of those negatives you mentioned. But to hear, everything you just said for all you aspiring models out there, that's the attitude you need to have in the real world. And, that's just hearing that and the example you just set. For the girls like you out there, like us out there with these dreams, that's the attitude that you do have to have. And now, on the other side of the coin, some of those things that we did see on the weaker side, like the bullying aspect. I do want to ask you about it, Victoria, because, you did just mention that you kind of felt, maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth, but somewhat alone in the house. You did have that moment in judging where you mentioned sort of feeling bullied, and we obviously saw it playing out. What's your take on that whole side of it, with the other girls? And, trust me, I'm not happy with some of the attitudes of some of the other girls on the show. So I could just imagine what it was like working with them. But what's your take on that?
Right, of course. For one, and as I said on the show, and I'm definitely not shy about saying this, is I'm really surprised and taken aback by some of the girls that were selected for none other than College Edition, because I feel like they really didn't exemplify what a modern college woman should be. And, if you look back from the very beginning of the show, some of the girls, like Kiara, she was sitting in a little clique of girls in the first episode and saying, oh, what's wrong with Victoria? Her voice is so weird. I don't like the way she speaks. And what's up with her hair? And just, all different things like that. And when I watched the episode play back in front of me, I thought, well, I'm getting attacked for just these arbitrary things. And this is supposed to be College Edition. It just really doesn't make sense to me, especially considering that Kristen was picked.
Right.
And she really did. I think it comes across on the show. It portrays her exactly as she was. She might have even been a little worse in person. And it just, I think it was very unfortunate that she was a part of this cycle. I think she is a bad role model for girls. Again, not to badmouth anyone, but I think, that is a big part of reality TV, and she did do a lot of criticizing of me. And I feel like a lot of their attacks were uncalled for. I feel like it was kind of the group mentality of, as the number of girls was whittled away and it got down to, the 7 girls, 6 girls, that they really kind of zoned in on me as the one to attack. And, I feel like it is unfortunate. I felt like, when I was watching the show, I felt like, well, why am I coming across as weak? Because you're not seeing some of the things that went on behind the scenes of me actually, rebutting these girls and standing up to the girls. And but I have been really thankful to get some messages from young fans that say, I'm going through bullying at school, and watching you and how you've handled everything, and just knowing that I'm not alone has just really made it easier for me to go through all the things that I'm going through. And, and then when I really think about it, it's not the glitz and the glamour and the photo shoots and the exposure. It's just like if I can inspire one person and make one kid feel like they're not alone, I feel like everything has really been worth my while. And especially because, I had never been through bullying before. I mean, I've been, I've done a lot of theater. I've gone out and about. I've done things. I've been off with friends. But I've never been the one that was zoned in on an attack, nor did I ever attack anyone. So going through this on the show, I mean, it was shocking to me, and I was a little bit perplexed as to why I was kind of pegged as the one to attack. But I feel like ultimately everything did work out well. I was able to inspire some people. I've had a great fan system. And, I'm interested when I think about Kristen and some of the other girls that were kind of the bullies. And I think about maybe some of the fan encounters that they've had, and I've wondered what people have said when they've reached out to them, because I know some of it probably isn't all that positive.
You know, Victoria, I actually want to point out, because I've noticed you a couple of times, you've mentioned about you hanging out with your friends and what have you, and the way the show portrayed you is that you didn't have any friends and that your only friend was your mom. And at the same time, there are a few times you'd mentioned not having a boyfriend and not wanting to ever really have the desire to be in a serious relationship because you have your mom. What is is that really your take on that, or what is your take now?
You know, it's very funny. I had no idea when I said that in my first interview that, you know, I said I don't have many friends, but I did not say I don't have any friends. And I think that it definitely, that was just the sentence heard around the world, because it went on blogs. You know, people were talking about it. People were saying, oh, it's so sad this girl doesn't have any friends. She does online college. She must just not, you know, she must be a hermit. And that's definitely not true. I have, you know, a great friend system through, I'm actually one of my closest friends is actually a photographer and makeup artist. They're fiancés, and they're a great team, and I do a lot of stuff with them. I actually just went and did a photo shoot with them last night. I think there's a great difference between not having many friends and, you know, rather having a small, intimate group of people that you prefer doing things with, and not having any friends at all. Right. You know, my mom has friends. I've got friends. We've got friends in separate groups, and then we've got friends together. I definitely don't see anything wrong with having my mom as my best friend, because I feel like, you know, she knows everything about me, and she loves me in spite of that, and she loves me in spite of some of the more unfortunate things about my personality. And, you know, I think it's great to have somebody like that you can depend upon. It's funny that you should mention the whole boyfriend thing and not ever wanting to have a boyfriend because of my mom. That was definitely some overlapping editing going on there. I definitely never said that my mom was the reason I didn't want to have a boyfriend. And I was kind of shocked that it came across that way, because honestly, to me, that doesn't even make sense. That it almost makes it sound as if, you know, my mom doesn't want me to have a boyfriend, or she some way held me back. You know, when I was little, my mom actually told me, you know, oh, the other little girls in your kindergarten class have little boyfriends. Why don't you have a little boyfriend? And I was like, Mom, I just don't want one. I really don't. I think it's something that I've been so fiercely focused on pursuing all of my career goals. You know, coming from a small country town too, I've seen a lot of girls, well, you know, even my grandmother settle down as teenagers and get married and have babies. And, you know, if that's what they want to do for their path, that's fine, but that's just never the path that I wanted to take. Relationships are just, in that respect, they're just not on my plate right now. They take up so much time. A lot of times this young, they don't really materialize in anything very serious anyway. And I just really rather focus on, especially coming off America's Next Top Model, I really want to ride off that exposure and just pursue and do as much as I can.
Well, Victoria, if nothing else, you have to admire, you know, your tremendous drive and passion, and you need that to succeed, and you definitely have it. And, you know, I think I'm most disappointed to hear that the bullying was, in fact, I was hoping that you'd say that would be what was edited out of control or out of proportion. It really makes me sad to hear that the girls really did act the way we saw them acting. And, you know, whatever quirks, as you said, you may have, or it just doesn't give anyone the right to treat anyone else poorly. I'm really a little outraged about it, actually. So I feel like this is almost, I'm answering my own question, but were you able to forge any relationships in the house? Are you rooting for anybody? Is there anybody you're keeping in touch with?
There actually, you know, sadly is not anyone that I'm keeping in touch with from this past cycle. And again, I feel like it's very unfortunate because I feel like one of the nicest, most genuine girls that was picked for the house was actually Jessie, who was, you know, first eliminated. So there was not much time to really get to know her. But, you know, she seemed like a nice girl. And if she could have stayed in a little longer, you know, one of the bullies, such as Kristen or somebody else who was definitely less than pleasant, was first eliminated. That would have definitely been nice and beneficial for the experience. You know, I feel like Yvonne was a nice girl. I feel like she was, you know, she was a straight shooter. She said it like it was, but she came across as fairly genuine to me, and there was nothing bad behind the scenes going on with her. I haven't really kept in touch with any of the girls. Believe it or not, this is actually kind of funny, but Kristen came up and added me as a friend on Facebook. And, you know, I'm very open with my Facebook account, but of course I immediately ignored her because I was like, well, you ignored and alienated and attacked me so much in the house. Why would I want to be friends with you on a social media site?
Right.
You know, if you weren't a friend to me in the house in real life. And, you know, I really, a lot of the girls, I feel like even, and again, you know, not to poor mouth anybody, you know, Brittany was not a bad girl or a mean girl, but I feel like being one of the other girls in the house that was a little more mild-mannered or a nicer girl, that maybe, you know, she could have kind of stood up for me a little bit more, not really gone along with some of the other girls. But, you know, she was kind of neither here nor there, so while she was not one of the ones doing the attacking once the number of the girls was whittled away, she also wasn't, you know, she wasn't a friend to me in the house, but she wasn't an enemy to me. She was just kind of there. So rather than keeping in touch with a lot of the girls, you know, I've kept in touch, of course, with some of the more behind-the-scenes people, you know, some of the production crew. Of course, you know, they keep in touch with you time and time again to let you know about interviews and things like that. But basically what I've just been trying to focus on since I've gotten back is not letting any negative comments from any of the girls seep under my skin, negatively affect me or define me. And I've just tried to move forward. So I feel like I've taken a pretty good approach and not let it weigh me down at all.
What's your take on, sorry, Jackie, I don't mean to interrupt you. I want to say, one thing I have to ask is, what's your take on Laura? Because she's been a really hot topic for us here in studio, as far as she's being portrayed as pretty manipulative and, in my eyes, pretty fake. Do you think that's an accurate representation of her and her personality?
I think that is absolutely an accurate representation of her and her personality. I feel like it was very unfortunate too that the fan voting, you know, took place ahead of time. If the social media really did play as large of a role as, you know, they were saying that it did in the judging, you know, Laura left and right, she was getting, oh, best photo, Laura's the challenge winner, Laura won the go-see, Laura this, Laura that, and I think it was really unfortunate that somebody that had such a fake, hypocritical personality as she did was constantly being rewarded left and right. Yeah. And I feel like she, you know, she was all smiles, and she was, you know, even, you know, Kelly Catrone at the panel was saying to Laura, you know, you seem like you're pretty nice to most of the girls back at the house. I don't think that was actually put on air, but, you know, behind the scenes, I think Laura did have a lot of people fooled that she was just this nice, genuine girl who was just, you know, so perfect that she couldn't help that she was so perfect and that she was winning all of the challenges and photo shoots. But I think she and Kristen were definitely had their own little clique formed. They were constantly on the show, you know, in their interviews, as you can see, kind of zoning in on me and ostracizing me and criticizing me when I never was the one to incite anything with them. And, you know, I don't know who won this cycle. You know, if Laura did win, I feel like that is unfortunate because just some of the stuff that she talked about behind the scenes too. I was like, you know, this girl, you know, she has such an opportunity. I mean, she is winning everything left and right, and she may be very successful in the industry, but I don't think with an attitude like she had and being hypocritical and criticizing people behind their backs and being a bully, talking about people that, you know, she kind of bullied back home. I think it's just very unfortunate that a girl like that was being so rewarded as the star of the show, and she absolutely was as fake, if not more fake, than she came across on the show.
Wow.
Wow. You know, I'm really amazed to hear, and so happy to be able to chat with you about this, Victoria, because it's just amazing to hear that, you know, such beautiful girls can really treat other girls so poorly, and that's an issue I always have with girls growing up in, you know, in these industries. And one last thing that I have to ask you before we let you go, Victoria, is they did, you know, this is a very personal thing, and I'm not even trying to pry into your personal life, but, you know, you said you wanted to be an example for girls with bullying. You know, they were bullying you about your eating habits, and that's a very serious topic for young girls and, you know, self-esteem issues, and, you know, even in the modeling industry, that's always a hot topic. You know, what
Right.
was your thought on going there, the girls going there, and do you have any thoughts on that for girls out there that might be actually struggling with something?
I definitely do think this is a highly serious topic, and I'm so glad that you asked me about this. I think it was actually very unfortunate the way that the whole situation was portrayed on the show, the way that the girls handled it. If they did have any genuine concerns about me or thinking that, you know, I might have problems, I might have an eating disorder, you know, that I might just be really sick, I feel like it would have been a lot better to handle it in a way that was less so accusatory and, you know, like an ad hominem attack, and more so just, you know, oh, how can we help you with this, you know, behind the scenes, how can we be there for you? So I feel like if I were actually suffering from something, they handled it just in a very disgusting and frankly embarrassing way. Second of all, I think it's very unfortunate that it did come across in the show that I did have an eating disorder, which in fact that's something that is really prevalent in the modeling industry. It's something that when I teach my workshops, I'm constantly telling girls, you know, the way to stay fit and trim is to follow the food pyramid and live a healthy lifestyle and eat healthy foods. By no means do you need to starve yourself or, you know, smoke to stay thin or go to other resorts. And I feel like, you know, at that point, I had actually only lost about 1.5 pounds. You know, due to stress, limited access to the foods that I like, I had not lost much weight at all. But the girls were just, they were attacking me behind the scenes from the very beginning of the show for being one of the thinnest girls in the house. And I knew that would be a problem. I knew it was probably a beast that would raise its ugly head further on. I would always just say, you know, well, I'm naturally thin. I have a high metabolism. I eat a lot of vegetables. And then as the show went, you know, of course, stress was a big factor. I was losing weight. When I got to Jamaica, I had actually lost a significant amount of weight because I was sweating so much and losing so much water weight. So it was even a concern for me at that point, but not because of any food issues, not because of any eating disorders or anything to that respect. You know, I enjoy my country cooking. You know, I'm from Georgia. I eat a lot of mustard greens and casseroles and mashed potatoes and stuff like that. That's really the kind of soul food that I like. And, you know, in California, I didn't really have access to that. And plus the stress of being thrown in the bottom to a lot, of having a lot of bad scores at panel. You know, it was a very high stress atmosphere, not to mention every time I would go down to eat dinner in the kitchen at the house, I was constantly being criticized and I felt like attacked. So it resorted to the point that I was sneaking down, you know, to the kitchen at 2 o'clock in the morning, hoping to get some time to myself so I could eat by myself and not be stressed out by being around other girls. And that was something that they tried to hold against me, especially at panel, in such a public and accusatory way. With Ira and Kelly and Rob and Brian Boy, you know, all of the judges didn't know what was really going on behind the scenes. It was really unfortunate to watch that play back in front of me and even experience it in the moment. I felt like I was having daggers thrown at me by the other girls, especially for something that so many people are suffering from and that I have never suffered from. I just felt like the whole thing was a fiasco, and it was extremely unfortunate.
Wow. Well, you know, it isn't, you know, it's obviously, I agree with you. It is a very serious issue, and I do hope that, you know, you are back in your element and you do feel healthy. And obviously the goal is to always promote that for other girls too. And, you know, I truly, you know, I really have, I can't say I've enjoyed, you know, talking to anyone else more than I've enjoyed talking to you, Victoria. I really appreciate you calling in and to hear, you know, where you're headed and your goals. And we really, I think, Alikona, I think you can agree that you have the right attitude, and I really hope that we do see you at New York Fashion Week. Yeah,
I think you just have an amazing head on your shoulders, and it makes you that much more of a role model if you weren't before. And I really do hope a lot of people do have access to this interview and do get to see a side of you that I feel like a lot of people didn't get to see.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, best of luck to Victoria.
Huh?
Yes, thank you so much. And stay strong. Tweet us and let us know. If I friend you on Facebook, Jackie Miranne, I hope you accept.
Me too.
Okay, sounds great. I'll definitely be sure to do that.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Very good team. Johnson.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.